Well, greetings, folks. 7 minutes late, but we had a technical difficulty and we had to make a phone call to figure out how to get it to go. But we're on and we're looking good. Looks real good. All right, I think. Okay, let me just fix that camera a little bit. It's kind of out of whack. Okay, that looks good. There we go. All right, cool. All right, it's Tuesday and it is November 29th. And let's see, a lot has happened here since the last time I was on. We did an interview. Oh, that was long ago. Yeah, we didn't do an interview last week because it was Thanksgiving Thursday. So, all right, we got Ben Carlson's with us, Keith S., Sean Wise, Hildy Stromboski. No, it's not Stromboski, it's Stromboski. Sorry about that, Hildy. You're probably down in Florida. All right, so let's see. Today, what was today? I got to fill you in what our day was like today. I have been working on a project here. Tim Milano's with us, the butcher himself. And, well, we've got a beef processing class coming up this Saturday. And we've never officially done a beef processing class, not one that we've charged people for. We did one last year that was just kind of like a trial because I wanted to see if you have 8 people working on one beef, will everybody be able to get to do something, and how would that go? Because I wasn't quite sure. When we do pigs, we usually have 12 people in the class. We break the pigs in half, so we have 4 halves to work with. So that gives us 4 teams of 3, and that seems to work out pretty good. Everybody gets plenty of time actually working with the carcass, and it seems to work out good. I'm not hearing any complaints. We've done it with 16 people, and maybe that would work if we had, believe it or not, if we had tables that people could access from both sides. But the way we do it now, we're working on a hay wagon, and you can only access it from right in front of the carcass. So that may change, but with beef, it's completely different. Uh, okay, uh, and we're only doing one beef for the class. So I think we've got, last I heard, there was like 11 people in the class. So I believe there's one more seat, and there's a couple of people that are talking about it. But I won't know about that until Jill gets home and tells me because she tracks all that stuff. But it's going to be good, I think. Um, yeah, I've got still got a lot to do and get ready for, because when we have a group of people like that here at the farm, all the other work has to stop and things have to be put away so it looks like we're somewhat professional homesteaders. We're not just working in a mess. So that's what I'm doing this week. I've been working on a project where I'm building a equipment shed, and it's not big. It's just on the north side of the new new chicken house. Excuse me. I just ate some really nice steaks, beef steaks, so I'm ready, good to go. Anyway, and I've got it all framed in and ready to go. Donnie's with us, Belva's with us, Zumwalt's with us. About time, Zummy. Where you been, brother? I know you've been having some things going on, man. Feel for you. I really feel for you. Luann Hoffman. Hey, right. We're going to have a nice crowd here tonight. I appreciate it. If I say hi to everybody that comes in, then people will talk. Okay, Andy. Good. Carnivore is filling. Yes, it is. I think let's see. I could do a quick calculation here. When I first went back on the carnivore diet, and I think we're at about a month now. I am about a month. I was 245, and I am now this morning 232. Quick calculation: three 13 pounds. Last time I did it, I lost like 30 pounds. So I had a lot of stuff that I was carrying around, and I think it was mostly internal. And people who do carnivore, they talk about their excretions. They're pretty vocal about it. And when I was asked about my excretions, I was like, by a female, it was kind of like, oh no, she says, we talk about these things. Okay, okay, I'll tell you all about it then. But I'm not going through that this time, but I did, I lost 13 pounds, and I wasn't doing it for weight, really. That wasn't it. I wanted to get back to the mental acuity that I was feeling. Brian Jacob, 65 pounds, and I hear Brian Jacob is coming north again. Right on. That's a bag of concrete. It is. Can you imagine that, carrying that around all the time? That's just incredible. And it's just from eating beef. You eat beef, salt, water, and it just drops off. But not only that, the inflammation comes to a screeching halt. And inflammation, according to my wife, is what causes everything that plagues humanity. Sonia's with us. Right on, Sonia. So the inflammation stopped. I was, feeling like joint pain and stuff. And I didn't think, honestly, when I went off the carnivore diet that it was going to work, because the change going on it was so profound that I really didn't think I was going to be able to go back to eating whatever I wanted and think that it was going to be okay. I really didn't believe it would. And sure enough, got to a point where I just said, something's not right. Something's not right in my life. I'm not thinking right. I'm not motivated. I'm not feeling good. And I asked myself the question before I went to sleep, what's going on here? And my subconscious mind worked on that question all night long. And in the morning, it was like the diet. Boom. And I knew that that was it. And I started it right then, right then. So these bodies are not sugar burners, they're fat burners, right? So if you keep putting too much sugar in, you overload them with sugar, and basically all the starches are sugars, you're going to have problems. At least that's what my experience. Jordy's saying we don't eat much beef, tend to stick with what we raise, mostly rabbit and pork. Yeah, I I don't get the same kick from pork that I do from beef. When I eat beef, I feel energized and I feel strong. I feel, you know, like standing straight and, lifting things. Pork, I don't get that feeling from it. I can eat it, and it's not like if I were to eat fish and chips, that will do something to me. I will not be in a good place if I do that. So for me, anyway, it's beef. That's where I'm at. And I'm glad that I'm in a place where I can raise beef, and now we're building a new butcher shop, and we're doing that specifically for uh, being able to process more beef more efficiently. And I think I'm going to get into that tonight. I can't help but get into that tonight. I can't help. Our show tonight is Scrounging Your Way to a Successful Homestead. I did this show once before, but it got taken down because I said bad things on there. And this show is sponsored by On Farm Classes, Beef, Charcuterie, and Tribe Plus. Okay, so the beef class is this weekend. There's one seat available. So if you don't know how to butcher a beef, this is it for you. I mean, this is the ultimate tool to have in your toolbox. If you, I put the word out there the other day. I said, if you're grandma or grandpa and you're not into doing heavy work, sponsor somebody. It could be your food security. It could. And some lady sent her grandson, to this class and the one next weekend as well. We got two consecutive classes, beef and then charcuterie. And for those of you guys that don't know about what charcuterie is, that's pork preservation, really, basically, is what it is, pork preservation. It's called charcuterie. Some places they call it other things, but that's the term that we're going to stick with because we don't want to be bouncing around all over the place. But yeah, all right. Coastal Gardening's with us. Right on. Haven't been seeing your name showing up too much. Of course, I'm not here that much anymore either. Once a week. I think going into winter, I just get the feeling like it's going to change, and we're going to go back to a little bit more rigorous schedule of information passing that we're doing here because our mission it's a valid mission. It's to inspire, motivate, and equip. That's a valid mission. That is a good mission. You cannot tell me that we wouldn't have so many people with their undies in a bunch right now if we had a bunch of people who were prepared and self-sustaining and had built communities. See, we don't want to build communities in the midst of crisis. We want to build those communities prior to, right? And then when we go into a crisis mode, then we'll be working some bugs out for sure. It's not going to be smooth, but we're not going to have the massive speed bump in the road that we have if we just wait. Like I was talking with somebody today, and it's my sister actually, and her husband is not really on board with the whole preparation thing, and they live in town, and he's saying, well, if we prepare, we'll just get robbed, so don't prepare. And I don't know, that doesn't really sound right to me. Well, then you need to be prepared not to be robbed. you know Like they don't want to buy precious metals because if they have money and nobody else does, someone will take it from them. All right, so why don't you just get out of your house now, move out onto the street, and then nobody will rip you off because you don't have anything, right? Yeah, it's not a good way of thinking. So anyway, yeah, got a lot to talk about because there is so much going on. I tell you what, in the news every day, there are things that just have your head spinning. And I remember when we first started this show, um, we'd have new things happening, month to month. But now it's like every week there is craziness going on. And I have prepared myself for the craziness to continue. And there is only craziness because there are two sides. One side is a good side, and one side is actually evil. And I'm not actually sure that good and evil are diametrically opposed opposites. I think evil is something different. Evil is something different. That's my thought now. Because it's not just that they know what good is and they're trying to do the opposite. I don't think they know what good is. I think they're very confused, and I think they're they have a sense uh, of intelligence that is not just skewed. Its intention is to do harm, right? So good can be the opposite of that, but evil is something completely different, I believe. And we're seeing this struggle playing out in front of us. I think it is a micro right now of the macrocosm. That's what I think. And I think it's going to play out. I don't think we're going to have an event happen and then all of a sudden, everybody starts whistling Dixie, you know, instead of farting. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it's going to, it's taken us a while to get to where we are. We have basically lost our culture in a lot of ways. Um, and so it's going to take a while to get back to where we were. Um, and I don't think, for a lot of people, I don't think it's going to be a painless um, journey, because sliding down the hill to where we are right now with humanity, um, you don't have to go far. You don't actually have to go to Walmart anymore to see the people of Walmart. You can see them. Well, Jill and I went to a restaurant last night, and there was a group in the corner that almost ruined the evening for us. Almost. And I just kind of wonder, where are they getting the dollars to pay for this? I mean, they basically looked like they went into this restaurant, and it's not, around here, it's probably one of the better restaurants that we have. We had one that was better, but they're not open very much anymore. So, like Ruby Tuesdays, it's about the best thing going. And yeah, we haven't been out to eat since, the Wu flu came. And we were getting some items for the class coming up this weekend. And I said, let's go out to eat, like old times. Let's just, we used to just sit there, and that's mostly what we do, is we just sit there and yak and drink coffee, and just for the fun of it, it was like, let's get something to eat. That'd be fun. And we did. And these people, it looked like they walked in from getting up out of bed in the morning. They were not wearing clothes. They were wearing basically pajamas, and they were grown-ups. The man, it appeared to be the father, was actually sitting on two chairs. He was so huge, and he had two plates in front of him, and he was just shoveling it down. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And they were loud and playing cell phone games, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, absolutely no class. And yeah, we see those types of things all over the place, and you just kind of wonder, like, where are you guys getting the wherewithal to get that huge? The whole family was just, even the little, there's a bunch of little kids too. Like, where'd they come from? I don't know. It's hard to figure out what was going on there. But that's kind of happening, and I think that hard times could be coming, and I am believing that if hard times are coming, it's probably for the best, because America is, and other people on here could attest to this, that we've been in the service and we've traveled. We've been to other countries, and even other countries that are not third world countries, but they're not like the United States. And the United States um, is waning, right? And I don't think that that's where, we've got to resist that. We're not going to give into it. And so, yeah, hard times could be coming, and I'm not convinced that that's not the best thing for us. I think it might be the best thing for us. I was buying steel today at there's a plant down in Tustin, and it's run by a bunch of Amish guys. I know them. They used to live up here in McBain, and I've been getting steel from them for a long time. And I went down there, and I'm talking with the guy, and they're in tune. And he said to me, because we were talking about what's happening in our area, processing facilities are just closing. And for various reasons, like they can't find anybody to work. Of course, they were shut down during the Wu flu, and a lot of people flew the coop and went other places. And now there are better jobs than working in a slaughter plant. And that's too bad. That's too bad. And I can tell you why that is. And people, once they leave, they never go back. And so it's going to be very difficult to get animals processed in the future here. It's, we put out there that we're doing a beef processing class, and somebody said, yeah, I can't get my steers in for 16 months. And I was like, yeah, you should take this class. Take this class, and then you won't have to rely on a piece of the puzzle that can just change. It can just go away on you, or somebody can close it. So this Amish guy said, we were talking about that very thing, and he said to me, I think this whole licensing thing just needs to go away. And I stopped for a minute because I thought, okay, it's about time people are starting to understand that licensing is permission from an entity that you don't have to ask permission from. And if you don't have permission, it's not like you can't do it anyway. They have their little rules here and there, but you basically don't need their permission to butcher animals. You don't. Now, you're not going to be able to sell that finished product to others that they have an agreement with, like a restaurant or a retail store. But you don't want to do business with those guys anyway. I've told you that over and over and over again. You don't. You don't want to sell your product at wholesale. Why should you? You raise it, you slaughter it, you prepare it, and then you're going to give it to some restaurant because they want it at wholesale. Then don't sell it to the restaurant. Sell it to the end user at retail. And then you get the proceeds that the restaurateur would get. Unless he's willing to pay you retail, then then don't sell to him. And he won't, because he can get it from Gordon Food Supply cheaper than dirt. But it might as well be dirt because it's just going to taste like dirt. And it's nutrient, deficient and all that stuff. So, yeah, we were having that conversation, and I'm glad to hear that even into the Amish community, they're starting to realize that why are we listening to these people who are just ruining everything for us? We just need to ignore them and press on. Like Owen Benjamin said, you guys know I listen to him. I think it's about time that we're able to listen to somebody. They may say some things that you don't like and that others won't like, but that's tough. I get things out of what Owen says. He's a smart kid. He really is. So, and he's got a consistent message that I have is the answer really is self-sufficiency. So you don't have to rely on these guys, and then they can rant and rave all they want, but you don't have to listen to them. You can't come in my store without a face mask on. Okay, well, I didn't need to come in your store anyway. And I guess I will never come back in your store. Any of the places that hassled me, I'm not gonna let that go. I'm just not letting it go. I'm sorry. If they had their way, they would have had us, showing a passport to get in. And I'm not sure they're done. They'll try it again. But anyway, but what Owen says is evil is weak. Continue to build, right? So don't get all wrapped around the axle about evil and what they're doing, because they're actually destroying themselves, right? Just ignore and continue to build. whether you're on a 150-acre homestead or you're on a 2-acre homestead or a 1/4 acre homestead. So continue to build, right? You take that 1/4 acre and you turn it into a real cream puff that is self-sufficient and produces. And somebody will want to buy that, and you can move up the chain to the next one, which might be 10 acres. And then from there, boom, up to 100 or up to 80 acres. That's what I did. I went from a 1/4 acre lot in town with a garden and a little maintenance area, and I built stuff there. We sold that, made I think $6,500. We made that. We made that, and then applied that to the next place. Sold that one, and made like 40,000, and applied it to this one. And back then, that was 18 years ago. This was uh, quite inexpensive compared to what land prices are now. So that's how you do it. I mean, it's only hard work. It's not from winning the lottery. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah, the word's getting around about self sufficiency and becoming able bodied and living a little bit below your means or a lot below your means. Um, I heard a terrible story today about one of my nephews actually had got chased out of the city. Basically, can't live in the city. It's not safe. They wanted to live in the city. They live in Boston, South End, woo, and are basically getting chased out of there now because it's just loaded with homeless people, and the cops don't come anymore, and they don't do their policing, and it's just not. You can get killed there pretty quick. And instead of doing a modest move, no, bought a home that was, closer to $1 million. Bad move, especially now. Bad move, but whatever. That's you're locking yourself in right there. That's not a good move. Anyway, when I heard that, it just kind of hurt me. But anyway, our subject tonight is scrounging your way to a successful homestead. So I learned scrounging, I think, from my dad. My father was the manager of the electric light department in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And I remember at the service building, that's where they kept the trucks. My father had an office at the town hall, but he would pretty regularly frequent the place where they kept the line trucks. And there was a table saw down there. So we would go in there, and if we needed to make things that required a table saw, we would go in there and use the table saw. And sometime we went there and washed vehicles and stuff. But there was a dumpster inside, and anything in the dumpster was fair game. And the lineman would throw stuff in. And a lot of times they threw stuff in like the old glass insulators that they would take down and replace with the new insulators, the new ugly brown ones. And we would get those, and they were kind of fun and they looked neat. And if they were completely intact, that was cool. But the lineman would just chuck them in there and they'd break them all. So that was kind of cool. And then other things like wood. Uh, if there was wood in there, my father always grabbed it and then stored it someplace in our garage. Our garage was a 2-car garage, but there was no cars. I don't remember a car ever being in that garage. There was always stuff in there, right, that he had scrounged, and someday we're going to use that. And yeah, my mother didn't like that too much, I don't think. But anyway, we always scrounge stuff. I remember one time there was a bunch of cabinets that electrical equipment had been in, high voltage electrical equipment had been in. And there were these bolts in there that he wanted. So he had me taking these bolts out. I was taking out all these bolts and then categorizing them and everything. And I think I still have some of those bolts here because when the house closed down, all that stuff came to me in Montana, and then I brought it out here. So I still have some of those bolts. And then when I was unbolting them, there was a piece of metal that was about that big, and it had rounded edges on it. It looked like this. It looked like a cell phone, kind of. It looked like that. Only it was about this big. It was only about that big, right? Yeah, it was about like that with the rounded edges, about like that. And it was anodized, which it had a coating on it. And he grabbed one of those and he scratched it with his key. And he says, "You know what? I think this is silver." And I had a whole bunch of them, like 30 of them, and each one of them was probably a half a pound. And back then I wasn't, into buying silver or anything like that, but this was on a Friday night, I remember. And we started thinking, we're rich. We're rich. Or I did. He didn't. I didn't even know what silver cost. I just knew it was pretty expensive. It's worth more than firewood. And so I started making all these calculations, and turned out that it wasn't silver. It was silver plated. And to get that plating off, it was just a very thin layer, and it was not what you wanted. But anyway, the excitement of that was huge. It was just huge. There was another thing that we used to do when the wire reels were being disposed of, the big reels that you see, big ones too. He would get those, we'd bring them home, and we'd take the through bolts out of them. And then the slats that were in between, he would save them. And we saved them for years. And he says, one of these days, we're going to make a deck out of these because they're slightly concave. And he had it all laid out. He had it all figured out. He's an engineer type. And so we built it. And it was, wow, did that look nice. But I remember he wanted it done for a certain thing that was happening at the house. We got it done, got it painted, but the paint didn't dry in time. So people could look at it, but we couldn't sit on it. We couldn't walk on it or anything like that. So that was that story. And then come to find out those pieces of wood didn't stand up to rot. So they rotted out really quick. But and I mean in 10 years they did. But anyway, but we were always scrounging, always, always, always. We built stuff, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff. But I remember as a kid, there was stuff that my father didn't know how to do, right? And so it limited what we could do. It limited what we could do. So he grew up as a poor kid in Lawrence, Mass. His dad died when he was little, and it was just him and his sister. His mother had to work the whole time. And then when World War II started, they took him, and he was doing that and got out of there, with his skin, flying combat missions over Europe in B-17s as an engineer, got a bunch of planes shot out from underneath him. Didn't quite make his 25 missions, got sent home for flying fatigue, and then they tagged him for a ferrying crew. So they were ferrying C-47s from, I guess, Florida over to India. And then on one of the ferrying trips, they said, "You're staying." And then they started flying C-47s, which are DC-3s, across the Himalayas. They call it flying the hump. They had 300 airplanes. They lost 200 airplanes and 200 crews doing it until they got the new airplane that was pressurized that they could fly up over it. Anyway, so he wasn't a slacker or anything. He just was busy during the time that maybe he could have been learning stuff. So he did not know how to weld. My father didn't know how to weld. He really, when we started, he wasn't really a very good carpenter, as I remember. There was a lot of things that we learned together, and he became a pretty good carpenter. But he was an engineer, so he was doing engineering things during the days, and it was kind of, my parents had a small property, is probably about 2 acres, and with a pool, and so that was his thing. He had a greenhouse and he grew stuff, and he collected ivies, and he liked to fix the house up nice for my mother and stuff, and that's what he did. But he wasn't into farming. He thought farming was really, he had moved beyond there. He was a poor kid when he was a young person, and then he became an engineer, and now he was, no, I'm going to drive a Cadillac, and I'm going to wear, white shoes, and you know, white patent leather belt and all that. So he was going to live. So when I got into farming, he thought, oh no, come on, that's what, outhouse? I'll never set foot in an outhouse. So, but the point is, here's the point I'm making. A lot of stuff that we came across when I was a kid, and I'm thinking of that dumpster, and this is you guys too. That dumpster that we used to go in used to be full of pieces of wire that the linemen would just, it's not long enough to do anything. It might be 40 feet long, and they just throw it in there. Copper wire, right? If I could get my hands on that now, I would be stripping the insulation off that, and I would be saving the copper. It's worth a lot of money. We didn't do that because we didn't know anything about that. And you'd think we would have, but we just didn't. We just didn't. I didn't learn about that until I was in the service. And I actually learned about it when I was over in New Brunswick on an airplane crash. And I came across these guys that were burning spools of wire that had been taken down so they could get the insulation off, and then they were selling the copper. And I said, what's that stuff worth? And he says, well, a little piece like this is at least worth 1 penny. Oh, so a dump truck full of it, that could be worth some money. So that's how I kind of learned about that. All right, Nancy's here, right on. Evil is self-destruction. It is. It has got a self-destructing component to it. Andy's saying, let's see, I'm not able to see one of these. We need some new equipment here. Come on. We really do. Can't go backwards. Was I saying something about going backwards? We are the creators of the new earth. Never ask permission, even do ever do what needs to be done. Right on. I ask permission of almost nobody, my wife, and that's only if I'm going to do something she don't like. Okay, so my point on this is scrounging is a really good way to get components that you need to do things. And you might not always find all the components, but when you find something, it's good, grab it and store it. We've got a junk pile here. We store all kinds of stuff. But what gives you the edge, what gives me the edge with a lot of the stuff that I have built is that I have the skills to I have the skills to put those things together. So let's say when I find metal, I find, angle iron, channel, I find just pieces, parts, just laying around. Somebody's gotten finished with something that they're building, and then they just, no, that's going in the scrap. Can I have it? Yeah, yeah, take it. A lot of times you can get stuff just because you're cleaning it up, you're getting it out of somebody else's way, and they look at it as it's got no value to me, but it does to me because I'm able to process it. So let's say that I find um, a bunch of brake drums, which I did not too long ago, that came off of a big truck. So they were heavy. And yeah, you want me to get those out of there? Oh yeah, take them if you want them. Oh, no problem. So I had to load them. They were heavy, and bring them home. Now I have metalworking tools, like I have grinders, hand grinders. I have die grinders. I have cut-off saws. I have cut-off wheels. I have oxygen acetylene tanks. I have a MIG welder. MIG is MIG, metal inert gas. If you want to know about this stuff, if you want to know how to start doing this, I can tell you. I can tell you where to begin. Um, I have an arc welder, which is my baby, that I've had for a long time. I've had it for 30 years, and it's only got like maybe 500 hours on the engine. It's a self-contained arc welder. Um, and because I have those tools and I've been working with those tools, I've learned how to take something and combine it with something else to do a function that I want. So, an example. Here's an example. I'm in the farming business. I put up a lot of fences, and when I want to put fence out, let's say it's 38 inch or 39-inch woven wire fence, which you guys know I use a lot of that. Um, I need to be able to secure it at one end and be able to stretch it out to the other. And the rolls come in 330 feet. So if I just lay it over on its side, let's say, and roll it out, well, that works pretty good if you're working on nicely manicured grass. But let's say you're going through the woods with that roll, and that roll weighs a couple 150 pounds, like 250 pounds, I think they weigh. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that. So I needed a device that I could mount to the back of my tractor, and I could put a roll on, and then I could just walk it out. I could just pull it, and it would roll as I pulled it out. So I got to looking around, and when we moved here, there was some junk cars out at where I have the junk pile now. And well, no, I moved them. They were where the garden is, and one of them was actually a Model A. It was a Model A. There were parts of a Model A, and it was the front steering assembly and shocks and some of the frame. It had been cut off, and I had hauled it out there. I was going to haul it off for scrap, and then I thought, hey, those wheels I could use, and so I cut it, and then I mounted it 90 degrees to that, and then I welded it to a cross piece, and then I mounted that on another piece that would mount to the tractor, and it's basically a spinning jenny is what they call it. So I can put a roll of fence on there and I can pull it out. It makes my job about 100% easier than the way I did it before. And that was why I built it, is because I used to do it the old way of just rolling it out and then standing it up. And it was difficult. It was very difficult, especially if there was obstacles in the way, you couldn't really do it. And so this has worked really well, and it is made my life easier. And I made it for almost nothing. The fuel to run the arc welder and some arc welding electrodes, that was it. So I have very little into it. But if I went and I bought that device to mount on the back of the tractor, I bet it could be $1,000 that somebody has fabbed it and built it for that purpose. Where I just used scrounge stuff that was laying around, put it together, and it worked. And I am not, you guys know, I am not the smartest guy in the world. I just was able to do this because I plug away at it. I just plug away. It didn't work real good the first time. I remember I had to modify it slightly, so it would work better. That's just an example of one of the things that I've built. I've built implements for my tractor to make things work better. I built a device that goes on the back on the 3-point, and many of you probably don't know what a 3-point is, but it is two arms that come off the back of the tractor, and then a third arm, an idler arm that's above it. And then I have a handle here by my right hand, and when I pull that towards me, those two arms come up. When I push it down, they go down. And what that's for is if I have a plow on the back of there and I'm wanting to plow a furrow, I put it down and go. And then I get to the end of the row, I pull it up and it picks it up, right? So that's a 3-point. Well, I made a device for my 3-point that I can put just a regular ball on there so I can move trailers around very easily. And I don't even have to get off the tractor. I can pull up and pick the ball up, and it will come up under the hitch and pick the trailer up, and then I can just move it around where I want it. And it really makes life easy, because you don't have to, when you're backing a truck up, and you're 2 inches off, and you back up a little more, and then you go over by an inch, and you go forward, and it's a hassle. This works really good, but it's on the tractor. And I've made bale spears. I got a really nice bale spear right now for moving hay bales. So I don't have to take my bucket off to put a bale spear on. I made this so that I can just slide it onto my bucket, and then I have a tie down chain binder that I snap into place, and I can move bales all day long. Kick that thing off, and throw it off, and it's quick. And that's because I was able to build those things. And what that does, it has a compounding effect, right? Okay, the bale spear, let's just take that for instance. The only part of that was purchased was the spear itself, but it was here when I got here, and it was on an implement that the intention was, see, I bought this tractor, it was part of the farm, and it had implements with it. The intention was that you would drop the bucket off the tractor, put this on to move bales. I dropped the bucket off one time, and it was so cumbersome. So it was hard. I had to drive pins out of there with a punch, and the cylinders didn't line up. I said, I'm never doing that again. All right. And so I made this thing, and it's worked ever since. Yeah, but the spear was the only part that I bought. Everything else was scrounged. Everything else was here, and I fabbed it up. If I had to purchase that, it would have cost money that I couldn't sink into fencing. Now all my fencing is just about done. All my water lines are just about done. My buildings are not quite done. I'm still working on buildings, but I would be further behind if I had to purchase that equipment. If they even make it, which I don't even know if they do. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything like that you can just put on the way I made mine. So you save money. And another thing that happens is you get a feeling of individual achievement, right? Individual achievement, right? That's from a movie that I really like. Al Capone said that before he clubbed the guy over the head at a conference table, right? And that's important, right? The more I do this, the more I realize that it is about the process. It really is about the process. The other day we had Thanksgiving, and I was doing some reading, trying to hear what other people say about Thanksgiving. And Henry David Thoreau, he said that I am in a perpetual state of thanksgiving, for who I am and what I have. And who you are, who I am, is my process. That's who I am. It's like, how do I go about my process on a daily basis? Some days it's good. I've been stringing together a lot of really good days. Today wasn't such a good day. I don't know why. It just wasn't. The wind was blowing. And oh, I know why. I know why. Our calf, our uh, our bull calf, Monty, he's going to be staying at somebody else's place for a little while for whatever reason. And he got away last night. He got out of their fences, and they couldn't find him. And I thought, we're not going to see Monty again. Terrible loss. And so it really kind of dragged me down. And I went and got the steel, and it was down in that neck of the woods. And I spent a few hours looking for him, and I couldn't find him. So it was kind of a. When I got home, I was tired from all the living and stuff, and it was windy outside, so I couldn't really get into what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think that's why I didn't have a great day today. Not a great day, but I ate good, and it'll be okay. I'll sleep in a warm bed tonight. So, what I think people need to do. Here's another, it's like a compounding reason why you want to work on your skill set constantly. If you are not a carpenter, when you see a pile of scrap wood laying someplace, it's not going to tickle you. It's not, because you're going to look at it and say, well, I couldn't build anything with it anyway. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have a skill saw. I don't have a hammer. I don't have a screw gun. I don't have a square. I don't have, even have a carpenter's pencil. I don't have nothing. So that pile of wood there, I might as well just leave it. Yeah, you might as well. I feel sorry for you because here you passed up a gem just laying on the ground because you don't have the skills to process it. That's not working for you. That's You need to fix that. You need to get the skills because building stuff and fixing stuff is part of what we do. That's part of this career field. You have to be able to build stuff, right? Build stuff, grow stuff, fix stuff. So let's say that you found a bunch of, I don't know. I was going to say, let's say that you found a bunch of ore, like iron ore or gold ore, but I don't think there is gold ore. But it was, and you didn't, and it was highly valuable, but you didn't know how to process it down to make gold ingots, let's say. Well, then you're out of luck. You're SOL. And there's only one person that can do something about that, and that is you. So you find a pile of steel someplace, and you don't know how to work with that, then this would be a good place to start. Get it anyway, and then bring it home, and then say, one of these days I need to learn how to weld. And then put that on your list of a place to start. And what do you need to be in the metal fabricating world to be able to make the things that you need to use on your farm? Oh, I know another thing I made. I made this implement that goes on the back of my tractor on the 3-point. I welded a whole bunch of railroad spikes to a piece of channel and mounted that so when I want to lower that down, I can rough the ground up in a really good fashion for seeding it. So if my pigs have been on the field and they've kind of compacted a little bit and I want to get more seed down in, I just throw that on the back and drive the field. And when I'm done, it's all broken up and it's nicely roughed. So I can throw seed out on it and it will actually get down into the soil. Right. And I know you can buy those things, but they're so expensive. And I'm not against buying stuff. Don't get me wrong, but if you go for walks with your kids on the railroad tracks, which we do routinely, and the whole idea is finding railroad spikes because you bring them home, they go in the scrap bin, they go to the scrap yard, and they give us dollars for that stuff. Actually, They say that they won't take any of that stuff, but if it's in scrap barrels, then I guess it's okay. Um, but what do you do with a bunch of spikes? Well, there's lots of things you can make. You can actually make good harrowing equipment out of railroad spikes if you look into it. It's not all that difficult to do. It's a fun project. I know Brian Jacobs and Cash, they're big time welders. Welding is a skill that it just makes so much sense to get good at welding. The other skill that I'm going to talk about tonight is, and I know I talk about this all the time, but I can't stay away from it. We have slaughterhouses that are closing down around us. And like when you see a pile of junk steel someplace, it's worth nothing to 99% of the people that walk past it. But then that one guy, me, sees it and says, "Whoa, I want that," because I can do something with that. And so if you have the skills, it makes junk turn into gems, you know? You see it as gems, not junk. And then you don't have time for going to Zales and looking at gems because they're worthless anyway. They're really worthless. You can't do anything with them, right? Not even a good place to store your wealth in gems. But the other thing I'm harping on this, and I guess I know it's probably the hottest thing right now, and this is what I said to this Amish guy today. I said, I believe that the hottest thing coming is going to be small farms again. And he said, I think you're right. He says, I read an article last week, and it said within 10 years, small farmers are going to be the ones that are doing the best, the businesses that are doing the best, not well, the best. Why? In our country right now, food is something like, oh yeah, well, there's food. Yeah, plenty of food in the fridge. Americans do not know what it's like to not have food. They don't know. The whole country doesn't know. But you go to the Philippine Islands, and everybody in the Philippine Islands knows what it's like to not have food. Or they know somebody that knows. Everybody's got a firsthand understanding of no food, right? And it's because they have a totally corrupt system, totally corrupt government, and the people get abused terribly by governments. Governments suck. They do. I mean, let's just. I remember Q way back saying a time is coming when these people will not be able to walk the streets, and we're starting to see how abusive our government has been to us. We're starting to see it, even though we kind of knew it all the time. Now we're seeing just the amount of lies that they tell, the amount of manipulation of the people through propaganda and all this stuff. You're starting to see it. And it's not just at the federal level, it's at the township level, right? I'm, I know a kid right now that's going through a hellacious time with the township. I am having a hard time communicating with him, so I'm not going to be able to help him because it's like somebody who's drowning and you want to help them, but they will not listen to you. I cannot help him because he still wants to play their game, but he's getting, they're putting him out of business. A township is, which, that's the communication barrier that we're having. When you get right down to it, he believes they have the authority to do that. And he doesn't believe me that they don't have the authority to do that, that he needs to just press on, continue to build, let them rant and rave, let them even summons you to court, but you're protected by the guarantees of the Fifth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment, First Amendment. But he just doesn't quite believe that, deep down. And he will always revert back to trying to talk them into changing their rules. And the township, they don't even have the authority to make rules, you know. They don't. That's not what they're there for. They are not a legislative body. They cannot make laws. And frankly, I don't follow anything. You know, I don't follow rules. I don't follow direction. I don't follow mandates. I only follow rules. So you can take your rules and shove them. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to ignore it. I don't follow rules. You know, it's different when I'm at somebody's house and they have a rule saying no, um, you know, whatever in their house. Okay. If I don't want to follow that rule, I'll just leave. But I'm not going to follow rules, of townships and city governments and all that stuff. They don't have the authority to do it. But anyway, I digress on that. That's not what we're about. We're talking about scrounging. Um, I got to talk about this. We're losing slaughterhouses around here left and right, and when that happens, the price of live animals drops drastically, drastically. So a lot of you are know that there's a possibility that hard times are coming, like a depression type thing, like the depression, or worse. A lot of you know it, and it's not just the United States; it's the world, right? And it's a humanity problem, and that's the way it is. And we didn't start it, and there's nothing that we can do to change all of it. But what we can do is look at our situation and just weather the storm. Just weather the storm. Let's say that you were a French citizen during World War II. You didn't start that war. All of a sudden, your country is occupied and you got German soldiers around. All you can do really is keep your head down and hope you can get through it. And that's kind of where we are right now. And so getting through means what? Staying hydrated, staying fed, being able to sleep someplace where it's warm. That's real important for your morale so you can keep going. If your morale sucks, that's not good. We don't want that. So those three things have to be taken care of. But I think some people are actually starting to realize that, wow, there were people who made billions during the Depression, who did very well during the Depression. Was that a bad thing? They're in business to make money and they made money, they did well. Is that a bad thing? No, I don't think it is. This hard time that's coming up right now, that it's beginning now. Unless it ends this weekend, I think we're going to see it's going to get progressively more difficult. But it doesn't have to be difficult for you. So there's people listening to me right now that if I was a stock trader, you have money to do things and and invest here and there. I think I want to approach this as an investment. If you own a butcher shop, if you invest the time in a butcher shop and get yourself trained on that butcher shop, that could be a huge moneymaker for you in the days coming. Because we don't see food as currency right now. We see currency as currency. I wish I had a dollar bill. We see currency as Americans, we see this. Ooh, this has got value. This pound of hamburger, it's just a pound of hamburger. Really, it's the other way around. This pound of hamburger has real value. This dollar bill has perceived value. If I was stuck in this room and I had $51 bills and I couldn't get out of this room, them $51 bills wouldn't do me any good. But if I had 4 pounds of hamburger in here and I was stuck in this room, that hamburger would keep me hydrated and fed for a long, long time. 4 pounds. It'd keep me alive for a long time. That is real value. And like Craig Schaff was saying at the soils class, really good point. He says we have to get away from looking or of using dollars as a unit of measure. We have to use calories as a unit of measure because the dollars is just a way that somebody else can get in between that transaction. Like if you have hay and I have hamburger and we transact, it's between me and you. And we might both have done very well. You know, I have too much hay, you have too much hamburger. Let's even it up. Oh, now I got hay and you got hamburger. Hey, we're both happy. We're friends, and nobody. There was no third party getting a bite of it. That's what. That's that's real commerce right there. That's and it's clean. It's very clean commerce. I'm not saying that dollars have no use for us. I'm not saying that. I think that the battle cry out there is either all or none, all the time. It's always all or none, and it's like I'm going to get off dollars. I'm going to go to silver. Well, you may have to need some dollars. You might need some dollars for something that you really need, and you can't use silver for it, or you can't barter chicken eggs for it, or raw milk for it, or whatever. I did some bartering for the class coming up this week. Uh, I asked the guy if he wanted to trade the class for hours of labor in his automotive repair facility. And he said, you know, that's a good idea. And it is a good idea. So we don't have to, you know, we don't have to pay a third party at all for what they feel is their cut of the action. You know what I'm saying? All right, Jordy's saying, waste not, need not. One man's trash is another man's chicken coop. I know what he's saying. Jordy's the guy that we interviewed a couple weeks ago, and he was telling us about his chicken coops. And Luann saying, I collect copper. Brian Jacobs saying, M-Rays. M-Rays. Oh, embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. Boy, that sucked. Yeah, it did. Embrace that suck. Boy, did that suck. Yeah, that really sucked. Yeah, I know about embracing the suck. Well, we're already wet. We might as well get it over with. So the and I'm not ever telling you guys to do something that I don't do. Would that be wrong? That would be just. I mean, you can't say this word. Well, I just won't say it then. That would just be poor form to tell you to do something that I'm not going to do. I am right now. Uh, we're revamping our maintenance facility so we can process beef in there easier than our small butcher shop. Our small butcher shop really is not designed for beef. I mean, well, it was designed when I wasn't a butcher. I thought I was a butcher. I designed it 18 years ago, and it's far too small for what we want to do. It's even too small for chickens. It really is because we need more room anyway, and we need an easier facility to clean, something that we can just hit with a power washer and it's done. So we're moving over to the maintenance shop, and the maintenance shop is going to be moving two places, one to the top wood shop, and I'm going to either refit my Ford truck into a service truck, so I'll have a lot of my tools on the truck, or I'm going to buy a new truck. I'm not sure which. I'm really not sure which I want to do. See, my plow truck, I don't know as I want to be driving that long distances. I don't know. I used to, but it's pretty old. But maybe I should just swap out most of the components on it so it's new, and then just use it as my main driver. It's got a big engine and it drinks fuel, but I don't drive very far. So I don't know. I'm still trying to decide, John Spears is helping me with that decision as we speak. Uh, but yeah, the maintenance shop is going to be the butcher shop. So it's pretty wide. It's about 15 wide and I think 40 long. So we'll have enough room to do what we need to do in there. We're building rails in there. We're building hoists in there and fixing the floor and really going to make it nice, classy operation. And my idea has changed a little bit. I'm going to build this facility, but I don't plan on manning it myself all the time. I plan on, allowing somebody else to work out of there and then make a good living, and then we can get our stuff processed and, um, you know, also we'll be selling our beef out of there too. So I'm not quite sure how we're gonna arrange that. Maybe my boys will take it over. I know I'll be working there sometimes, but I don't want you to think that I'm getting out of the homesteading. I'm just going to be butchering all the time. I'm not. Where it's going to be a seasonal shop. I firmly believe in seasonality. If you have a shop that relies heavily on HVAC, and then we have a grid down scenario, you're SOL. But if your beef are walking around eating grass, then you're just not going to butcher until it's fall. That's all there is to it until it gets cool out. So that's how I feel about that. But I want to encourage people to be able to meet that demand. And I don't know that it's coming. I don't know that. But I do know that one of the processing facilities here in Tustin just closed the doors. And another one is having some major problems. My friend Rory actually has major health problems that he's not expected to get over. So it's questionable whether that will stay, in business. And then that would leave us with just one, and they're already so maxed out. It's not funny. And I don't know if this is happening in every community in the United States, but I think it is. I do think it is because some communities didn't have them in the first place. We were very lucky that we had processing facilities here in northern Michigan where I'm at. But there are some places like in the UP, they have one in the UP. I guess now they have two, now that they got Tim Milano. But, all right, Sonia, right on. Nothing beats a good barter. Yeah, usually with a barter, both people can come out on ahead on top of things. Brian, that is an Air Force unofficial motto. Embrace the. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. It ain't sucking enough. Don't you think you've got an advantage, Andy, having been in the service for 20 years and getting into the homesteading world? Like you have this gyro that's been wound up inside of you. And yeah, it starts to slow down a little bit, but never quite slows down to where it was before you went in. I don't think mine hasn't. And I always want to be doing something that's moving the ball down the field, or as I like to say, um, fortifying the position that we're in. Um, the thing with beef, it's like I can't turn my back on that. I cannot turn my back on that because there is such a extreme profit in beef, right? If I have a calf born here and then that calf stays here till it's 2 years old and I'm doing nothing but feeding it grass on a daily basis, just letting it move around on grass, what do I really have into that beef? What do I really have into that animal? Not much. Not much. If I take it to a USDA processor, oh, that's going to cost you $800 to get it processed, maybe even $1,000 now. Then now you start. talking you've got some money into it, and then when you resell that, you've got that uh, you've got that money coming off your bottom line. That hurts, right? But if you can sell it by the cut, and I know there's rumors out there, you can't sell by the cut. You can only sell halves and wholes and quarters and eighths and sixteenths. I sell it by the 32nd. That's such a stupid thing people say, but they keep saying it. It's so stupid. What do they have? Like a drone flying over you? Is that a half a beef? People just want to play by the rules. I don't play by the rules. I only follow the laws, and even some of them, I'm not sure about. Yeah, we found him. Patty found him. He was sleeping over at somebody's house. She had a couple of cute little heifers over there, and he was eyeballing them. The little heifer said that she thought he was cute. Remember that? And remember what that led to? Oh, Jeremy Huggins is in. During the pandemic, hogs were 50 hogs were $50 in Illinois. Learn to butcher. Right on. I got one Chief, I got one seat open. But if you bring your wife, I will have 2 seats open. You really should come. You really should. If I were a carpenter and you were a lady. I remember that song. Let's see. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. All right. Well, right on. Wow, we've gone an hour and a half, and it was painless. But I hope you will start to look at scrounging as a serious, serious advantage. I was well. Let's see. I'll do a little. I'll do a little. I'll just look around just the room that I'm in. I'll look around in here and see. Okay, what's scrounged in this room? Well, all the electrical boxes in this room are scrounged. I scrounged them all. I was the one that rebuilt this room. I put the ceiling in and fixed the roof and all that stuff. I did all that. And all the electrical boxes in here are scrounged. All the wire, I wired this myself, is all scrounged. All the switches are scrounged. I have a tote with full of electrical parts that I've just over the years I've scrounged. That stuff you will find that in dumpsters, and it's just because they're so cheap. Like an electrical switch is like $2, and people just pitch them and put a new one in because this one has scratches on it. Let's see what else is scrounged in here. Well, I'm sorry to say there's not too much that's scrounged in here. Nope. No. But if we were to go down into the maintenance shop, there's tons of stuff down there. The butcher shop is full of it. Um, I'm always on the lookout for things that are casted off. I don't steal. You don't want to steal. And sometimes with my kids, we have to distinguish between, well, that's in that guy's backyard. It wouldn't be right for us to take that. But if it's by the curb, next to the trash cans, then it's okay to take that. Um, in Cadillac right now, and they probably do this in all the major cities. Cadillac is our town, 10,000 people, right? Nice town. Um, we're bringing milk in to Cadillac now. We started out 1 gallon, then 7 gallons, then 8.5 gallons. I guess this week it's going to be 10 gallons. So, oh yeah, oh yeah. So it's just happening. It's just happening, and that almost led me into another story. I will in a minute, but in Cadillac, in the fall time, people go to Home Depot and they buy bags, And these bags are sort of like old shopping bags. They're paper, but they're heavy. They're almost like fertilizer bags, and they're tall and they're kind of round. And I don't know what they pay for them, but evidently when you buy those, the city of Cadillac will pick them up, right? When they pick up trash, or they send out a different vehicle to pick those up, I guess, evidently. So the scrounger drives around with a trailer and just throws them in the trailer. And what are you getting? You're getting all of their biomaterial from their yards, all the leaves, the acorns, the sticks. You might get some trash in there too. That's not so good. But then you can bring that to a field where you have a lot of animals that are loving to look through things and see what they can find, acorns or whatever. And you can just throw it out there. You can throw the bags out there too, because they'll decompose eventually. It might not look good for a while, but um, yeah, the scrounger. Also, get this, get this. I'm talking with Joe Higgins the other day, and I'm telling him, hey, at this rate, I am going to have to get more cows because we're selling more milk than we ever have. And it's bringing a good price and we're making money. And basically, what you're doing is you're taking grass, running it through the cow, and the cow gives you milk. That's what I'm drinking right now. This is almost like cream. And people get this and they say, I want that. We sell it for $10 a gallon, right? And you might think, boy, that seems like a lot because milk at the store, I don't even know what it is now, but I'm hearing some places it's up $5. It used to be like a buck and a quarter, right? But it's not really milk, what you're getting at the store. They've taken all kinds of stuff out of it, and then they have to add back in vitamin D. Well, where do they get that? Why didn't they just leave it alone? Because they want to take the cream out and they want to make yogurt and they want to do all this other stuff with it. And then they basically sell you the dishwater that's left over. If you have raw milk, grass fed raw milk, it's nothing like the milk at the store. Nothing. Oh, so good. So good. So he was recommending that I expanded my area where I milk that would make it easier. The area where we milk right now, we started out with just one cow and we needed milk for the house. Then it went to two cows. Then we started selling a little bit, making a few bucks there. It was paying for the grain. Three cows, and then five cows, and then now we're selling it in Cadillac, and it's bringing good money. So I had shown you guys a long time ago underneath the hay mow in the barn, and we got in there and we jackhammered out all the concrete that was under there. It was put in there in the 1900s, early 1900s, like probably 1910, because this barn at 1905 when it was built was state of the art, and it was built for the sole purpose of storing hay that would be fed to the cows that would be milked under the hay mow, and the milk goes in cans, and the cans go out by the road, and the wagon comes by and picks up the milk, and the guy gets paid once a month. That's how it was done. 10 cows, state of the art technology at the time. And the guy that lived here, Ben Brinks, he was making a white collar salary. Yeah, white collar. Did very well. Did very, very well for himself. Uh, to build a barn that I have now would cost probably $250,000, right? And so the value was there back then. It wasn't like they just waved a wand. They had to come up with the materials and all that stuff. It was expensive, and I don't know if he saved the money and built it or borrowed and then paid back, but milking cows was lucrative then. It is now, if you do it right. If you do it wrong, it isn't. The guys that are milking 200 cows, they're losing it. But here we milk 5 cows and we get $10 a gallon for the milk. So do the math on that. Each cow is going to give you roughly 4 gallons a day. If you average out their lactation, 6 on one end and 2 on the other end, but um, there's good money in it. So anyway, all that stuff that we jackhammered out under the haymow was where they used to milk. And it was all cracked up, and we couldn't really have used that. We jackhammered it out, and we were going to put in a new floor and use it as a dining room. But things changed, and I realized that building out under the haymow wasn't going to be, we weren't going to get the result that we really wanted. And another option came up, and so we decided to go with that. We never really dedicated any money to it, and so I figured I'd just pour the floor back down, and then we could store stuff under there. Nope. I'm going to restore it to its original configuration. So we will be able to, I'll set it up for 6 cows to milk 6. And the small part that juts out from there is the milk house, the original milk house that we don't use for anything right now. There's nothing in it but like bicycles in it now. So then we're going to finish that off, make it into the milk house again, and have our refrigerators in there for cooling the milk, and our cleaning equipment for cleaning the milking equipment in there. So we will be moving that out of the butcher shop and into the milk house. And when I finally realized that here we are, we're taking a milk house and using it to store bikes in, and then we're using a butcher shop to clean our milking equipment in. What are we doing here? So when this is built out, my friend Matt's going to help with this. It is going to be just beautiful and old time, but well lit. I'm going to put some nice windows in. And when people come here to see the operation, I just feel like it'll round it out. Okay, this is the butcher shop. This is where we milk. Here's the cafe. Am I letting the cat out of the bag? Yeah. We got plans, because every day I'm thinking about, okay, what is America going to look like? What is it going to look like? Everything that's happening is, all the terrible stuff really is voluntary. Nobody held you down to give you a shot. They coerced you into it, and then you finally said, okay, all right, give it to me. It wasn't like being in the Air Force. You guys in the Air Force, we'd have a commander's call, and then they'd lock all the doors except one set of double doors to get out. And there'd be a hospital technician on either side, handing them a needle. You stood in a line, and you get a shot going out, a flu shot. I got a flu shot for like 18 years while I was in. I was in 20, but the last couple of years, I learned how to E&E the flu shot, because it made me sick. It didn't keep me from getting anything. It made me sick. It actually made me sick. And I thought, what is in that? And then I started to kind of wake up, like, don't trust these people. They don't have your best interest in mind. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Then I got to get going. Sadly, I probably will not be going to bed anytime soon, because I did nod off today. Embrace the what is. Much more empowering just saying, all right, well, yeah. Well, Hug, you need to come at some point. Maybe not this year. It's a little tight, but at some point. Probably if you're out for a little longer, you'll unwrap a little bit. Get a little less unwrapped. I know it took me a while. Yard waste bags is what city folk call them. On the homestead, there is no such thing as yard waste, though. Yeah, but when I can bring their waste to it's good stuff. It's organic material. It's really good stuff. I'm having a heck of a good time with my chicken house. Really good time with the chicken house. I mean, it's so much different when you look at these little animals give me eggs. Yeah, that's cool. But they're giving me manure too. And if you learn how to use their manure, it is way more powerful than the eggs. Way more powerful. I'll just tell you that. Eggs, they're great, but there's so many of them around these days that they're very cheap. And it's hard to, I think we get $4 a dozen and we don't have any laying around. They always sell. And whatever we make off them goes into chicken feed. And so I know we're ahead, but it's not like we're making a killing. But the manure that we get from them, if I can collect that up and process that properly, um, and that goes on gardens, it gives you a serious kick. Serious kick. All right, I'm gonna get going. Um, we will be having a consulting call tomorrow night on Zoom. So if you are not a Tribe Plus member, you're going to want to join up. And please cut us a little slack. I know that well, anything that I have to go around on the internet is difficult, but I understand that it's quite cumbersome and it's being rebuilt. It's being rebuilt as we speak. So I'm going to get going. I'll see you. Remember, anyone can farm. Get out there and get after it.